4 pounds of cucumbers so we can make pickles. Okay, so I've never made pickles before, and I'm going to be using the recipe that's in my Ball Blue Book, and I'm making bread and butter pickles because that's what my husband really likes. And it called for 4 pounds of cucumbers and 2 pounds of thinly sliced onions. And I know I have enough onions, but I will measure those on the scale. I'll weigh them. And so I'm just going to take you guys along step by step as I do this, and hopefully they turn out good. So the first thing it says is combine cucumber and onion slices in a large bowl, layering with salt. Cover with ice cubes. Let stand for 1.5 hours. Okay, so I have to slice the cucumbers into 1/4 inch slices. So I'm going to get the cucumbers washed and my cutting board set up, and we'll get to slicing. So here's the 2 pounds of onions. There was just exactly 2 pounds of, these were from my dad's garden. But I know once I take the peel off, it will be less than 2 pounds. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw in one of my red onions that I got from the store. It'll add some interest and some color to the pickles as well. So I'm going to get started cutting these cucumbers up. I'm going to go back to my book here, and I'm going to use my magnifying glass to make sure I am reading this correctly. Layering with the salt, and it says 1/3 cup Ball salt, which is pickling salt. I don't have the Ball brand of salt. What I have is the Morton's canning and pickling salt. So that's what I'll use. So I need to measure 1/3 cup of that, and then I guess put some cucumbers and onions, and then sprinkle salt. Cucumbers and onions, sprinkle salt. Okay, and I got my ice machine going so that I'll have ice to cover it with. Alright, I think I know what I'm doing, so let's get going on this. Wish I had a bigger counter. I don't have enough room in this kitchen, I'm telling you. So here's my 1/3 cup. I'm going to measure out salt. We go. Let's get going. I'm not going to cut much off the ends because I know these are nice, fresh cucumbers. I picked them yesterday and this morning, so I know they are nice and fresh. And I guess the nice thing about pickles is you don't have to peel the cucumber. I sure hope these turn out, because my hubby likes them. This recipe is supposed to make 7 pints, which he said should be enough to last him for the whole year, except if Olivia decides she likes them, and if I decide I like them. Now, the only other time I had these bread and butter pickles was when I was a kid, and I didn't like them when I was a kid. And so I've never tried them since. Of course, now I might like them. Because I never liked fresh tomatoes. I mean, I like tomato sauce and ketchup and pizza sauce and, you know, things made with tomatoes. But I could never stand just eating a raw tomato. And lately, I've been putting raw tomato on my sandwiches and things like that, and on my tacos, and I actually like them. So I guess your tastes do change. I think I'll cut one more cucumber, and then I'll slice up an onion, and then I'll sprinkle some salt on. Now there was one ingredient that this recipe called for that I did not have, and I went to 3 different stores and I could not find it. And it says it's optional, It's called Pickle Crisp. And I guess the scientific term for it is calcium carbonate. I know that some of you that watch my videos do canning. So please tell me, have you ever used it, and do you think it's really going to make a big difference? Because, like I said, I looked in 3 different stores and could not find it anywhere. And since it said it was optional, I'm just going to go ahead and do it without it. Now, I can order it online, but obviously I don't have time to do that because these cucumbers aren't going to keep. I have to get them done now. My husband said we'll just give it a try without it, and if we don't like the way they turn out, then we'll buy some and keep it on hand for next year. Because it comes in a jar and you don't need much. The directions say 1/8 of a teaspoon per jar. So leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any experience with Pickle Crisp, it's called. At least that's the name that the Ball brand uses. Alright, I'm going to get this these onions sliced up. And when I have the bowl full and all ready with the ice cubes and everything on it, I'll bring you back. And my eyes are already starting to water from these onions. Woo, baby! Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. Those homegrown onions are so strong. The goggles aren't even helping that much. Woo! If men only knew what we had to go through to make things for them. So there's the bowl of cucumbers and onions and salt with ice on top. Now I have to let it sit for 1.5 hours, and when that time is up, I'll bring you back and we'll do the next step. So it's the mixture has stood for 1.5 hours. So now we have to drain them, rinse them, and drain it again. So that's what we'll do next. So the ice stayed pretty solid. I've got 2 different strainers here. Don't worry, the sink is clean. So I'm assuming this is what they mean by rinsing them. Rinsing them and draining them. I think I'll probably dump them back in a bowl so I can rinse them really good. Still got ice in it. Whew, is that cold? Okay. Drain it again. Switch these out, and now rinse this pan now. And it sure smells good. If you like the smell of onions, you'll like the smell of these pickles so far. I'm assuming we rinse them like this is to get a lot of that salt brine off of them. Pickles are kind of salty, so I suppose you don't want to get, you know, all of the salt off. Maybe you just can't get all of the salt off. Alright, so I'm going to leave these bowls in the sink and let them finish draining. And I'll go see what the next step is. So the next step says to combine the remaining ingredients in a large saucepan and bring it to a boil. So the remaining ingredients would be 2 cups of salt, or not salt, sugar. 2 cups of sugar. And this is organic sugar, so it's a little bit caramel colored. This is a 1/2 cup measure, so I'll need 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 2 cups of sugar. Okay, then it calls for 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. So I've got this. This is all they had at the store, was this size container, but I don't think I'm going to be using mustard seed that often, so. So 2 tablespoons. 1, 2, and then 2 teaspoons of turmeric. I keep a lot of turmeric on hand because it's incredibly good for you. I try to eat turmeric every day. It has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. So if you have a lot of joint pain, you should take turmeric every day. Then 2 teaspoons of celery seed. So I've got McCormick's organic celery seed. 2 teaspoons celery seed. 1, 2, 1 teaspoon of ginger. Ginger is another one that's really good for you. Good for digestion. And then it called for 1 teaspoon of peppercorns. Scott said he never remembered his mom using peppercorns, but I'm going to go ahead and use them in this recipe because that's what it calls for. So these are the peppercorns I have, and I got them from Costco. And it's just 1 teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon of peppercorns. And then it calls for 3 cups of vinegar. And you just use regular white vinegar. And there is 3 cups. So I bring this to a boil, and then you add the cucumbers and onions, and you would turn it to a boil. And then that's when you start packing it. So I'm going to get this on the stove and get it boiling. So I'm just going to whisk this on the stove till it comes to a boil. And when it's boiling, I will bring you back when I add the vegetables to the pot. And in the meantime, I've got my canner going here. I've got my jars in there, washed. They're washed and rinsed jars, and they're in the pot. And once this water comes to a simmer, I have to simmer them for at least 10 minutes before I can start filling the jars. So when this is boiling and I'm ready to add the vegetables, I'll bring you back. Alright, it's boiling, so I'm going to go ahead and add the vegetables carefully without slopping. Yikes. It seems like there's a lot of vegetables compared to the liquid. Hopefully I'm doing this right. So we need to bring this back to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on this and bring it back to a boil. And when everything is ready and the jars have simmered for a long enough time and everything, and it's time to start filling the jars, I'll bring you back. Alright, so the pickle stuff is hot and boiling. So I've got my funnel here, and you're supposed to fill this to a 1/2 inch head space. And I want to make sure that I have enough juice for all the jars, so I'm trying to kind of be careful here. And then you debubble. And once you kind of push it down and debubble, it kind of gives you more space here, so you can add a little bit more. And you always want to debubble with a plastic tool so that you don't nick the lids or cause any cracks or anything in the jars. And I'll check here to see if it's at 1/2 inch, and it is. And I've got my paper towel dipped in a little bit of white vinegar. I'll wipe these rims really good. And when I was washing the jars, I checked and made sure there were no nicks on the glass. And then get one of the lids. I keep my lids in hot water. I don't know if you have to do that anymore, but my mom always did, so that's what I'm going to do. It's not boiling, it's almost boiling. And you put the rings on fingertip tight and no tighter. And then I'm going to get this jar in the canner and get another jar to fill. I'll show you one more time. And I learned from the Needy Homesteader to always keep a towel, tea towel, a kitchen towel, down on your work surface because it helps with the cleanup. Because you're always going to make a mess. So then you take your tool and you debubble. And as you debubble, it kind of makes them go down a bit, and then you can maybe add a little bit more. But I think this jar is about good, filled good. So let me get my lid. Oops, I forgot a very important step. Gotta wipe the rim. Don't forget that, because that will mess up your seal. You don't want all your hard work to wind up being ruined because your jars didn't seal. There we go. Now, and I had put this back in the water, so if there was any particles on it, it got rinsed off. When I have all the jars filled and in the canner, I'll bring you back. The recipe said it would make 7 pints, and that's exactly what it made. I have just enough pickles left in the pan over there for maybe a couple of bites. So once they cool down, I'll give them a taste. Now what you do is you put this rack on top of the jars. Put the lid on your canner, and then you move the dial up to the canning mode. Once this comes to a boil, then you start your timer. You do not start your timer until this is at a rolling boil. And I don't know how long that will take. It might take a half an hour, I don't know, 10 minutes, we'll see. I'll let you know how long it took for this to come to a rolling boil. Once it is at a rolling boil, then you process these for 10 minutes. It's definitely boiling, and it took about 20 minutes to get to this rolling boil stage. So now I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes and let my pickles process. When they're out of the canner and on the counter, I'll bring you back and show you the finished product. So here they are, all done. I've heard a couple of them ping already, so hopefully they'll all seal up real good, and I can put these in my pantry tomorrow.